career.
All right. Okay, Miss Handy. Thank you for meeting with me today. I just wanted to go over a few wonderful things that I saw as you were meeting with Miss Cervantes on her, coaching her on the poem The New Colossus and giving her strategies. So I want to highlight a few great things I'd like to celebrate with you from the coaching session. And so first and foremost, I want to just tell you have excellent rapport with the teacher. And you could just tell how comfortable you were sharing ideas with her, and then how comfortable she was sharing with you. And then even her asking questions, like wanting more feedback, right? Throughout it. You had your script prepared and ready to kind of work through Miss Cervantes stamping her next steps. I also wanted to give you a shout out for you modeled how to guide students toward comprehension through the visualization and scaffolding question, giving the teacher a clear see it moment when you had the anchor chart that you had already prepared and referring back to that anchor chart. So it was a clear see it moment, like how do I, the teacher was asking about how do I make this imagery visible for students
and engaging.
So you pointed out, right? Like doing that. And then so like your feedback was anchored in concrete classroom moments. You were the pausing, the imagery, the students reading, and you tied it back to actionable strategies that the teacher could immediately apply and integrated the anchor chart that was posted in the room. So she really, I could tell that she was excited about that. So what do you think doing that made it successful?
Something I feel like that made that successful was sometimes we'll talk about things in CBPL, but for her to actually see it live with her students and see how the students were able to use that anchor chart for their own learning and grasp such a hard concept.
Yeah, that poem, it was
very hard. But I think it was very successful because it surprised the teacher. She was able to see how capable her students were. And she was also able to see what knowledge her students was already coming with prior to her teaching that poem.
Yeah, and I mean it was a visual expectation or a visual right there for the teacher to use.
Yes.
And you highlighting those things.
I would say that was it was like a next step, because we always talk about anchoring the learning. And that was a really good visual for her to see the next step. Not only are we anchoring learning, but we're making sure that our anchor charts are engaging and interactive for our students.
And then the students can always refer back to it.
Exactly.
To use, right?
Exactly.
Because with that poem, they did have a lot of vocabulary, and even I had to go back to that imagery anchor chart and be like, okay, what does this visualize? What does this look like? So kudos to you on that. So how do you feel the coaching session went? What was one thing that was successful in the coaching session, and what made that successful?
One thing that was successful in the coaching session for me was not only was I able to model, but the teacher was able to apply it right away. I feel like I kind of threw her out there in the sharks, but she did it. I modeled 2 groups with her, and once the 3rd group came, I wanted to see if she was able to execute it, because at the end of the day, when I leave, that's her kids.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to see how capable she was of taking what she just learned and saw and applying it, and she did.
So she was able to apply.
Right away, on the spot.
Good. And that's what we want. Teachers to really use those strategies to really kind of close some of those gaps. So that we don't have to do so much going back to tier 2.
Exactly.
But if we have strong tier 1, then we know that it's that we're closing those gaps right away.
Can I add something to something else that was successful?
Yes.
So sometimes we'll talk about things in CPL, or we'll give our teachers coaching moves, and they'll just stay there. Unexpectedly, the very next day, we went to go do an observation on Miss Cervantes. She did a small group. Without us saying anything, we watched her model how to integrate an interactive anchor chart, and how she scaffolded with her students right away exactly what she saw me do the day before. She did it without any coach move on the spot. She applied it again the very next day. And
no coaching with that, just from something from CBPL.
From the day before.
So that's why I always talk about how powerful CVPOs are.
Exactly.
Because that's where the planning is. That's kind of where the magic happens. And then how do we go out and deliver it to our students?
How is it applied? And
yep. Awesome. That's good.
Yay.
So, so thinking about those moves, which of your moves, pausing, prompting, imagery, or using the anchor chart, seem to strengthen comprehension of the teacher's knowledge? What did you feel like when you were coaching her? Because I noticed, like, yeah,
a lot, all of them. I feel like imagery.
And why do you say that?
Well, right now they're in the poetry unit right now, and oftentimes, like, the students will just read it once and then they move on. But we're not. Sometimes teachers don't give the students an opportunity to actually like practice imagery when it comes to the poem. So something I did on the spot with her that actually helped the kids as well was closing their eyes and creating that mental image of what they were reading, and then eventually that transferred over into their comprehension, which is very powerful.
And you made us all do that too when you were doing. You modeled that strategy. Because I remember closing my eyes thinking, well, okay, I haven't even read the poem. And then I could kind of visualize what is going on in this poem, right?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, yeah, just like we want students to see and feel what the author is describing. So you saw that how that small move, prompting them to visualize, which what you said with the imagery, sparked the engagement and comprehension just between you and
the students and the teacher.
And then they actually were picturing what that line meant from that poem, not just identifying the alliteration like what you talked about, but you kind of gave them that guided visual opportunity to really bring the text to life. All right, so just thinking about that, as you were coaching, we came to some ideas, some strategies that you wanted to stamp. But what I noticed is that what do you think would be your next step to make sure to have the teacher script out what she would want to bring the poem to life? How would you get the teacher to, yes, visualize, but be able to bring that poem to life for the students? What could you have done?
Something I could have done is maybe myself provided an image for that poem that would have correlated after the students were able to visualize it on their own, just to kind of reaffirm what they visualized. So like a visual support, concrete visual support.
Okay, and what would that look like?
So the story was about, mentioned the Statue of Liberty. Maybe actually bringing a picture of the Statue of Liberty.
And how do you think the kids would react to see that? I know you guys talked about it in the coaching session where you talked about if the kids knew what the Statue of Liberty was, and she said that some of them
didn't. Some of them did, and she was surprised. Like some of her students who normally they're not as vocal in Tier 1 instruction, and actually did know a lot about it and the scientific facts behind it and everything. But some of the kids she thought would have been familiar with it weren't. And like I said, like that concrete image probably would have helped. Like, would have sparked some more ideas.
All right, so let's just take a minute and let's write out a script as to what you would say to Miss Cervantes once you observe her teach the lesson. And you can use that. Or you want to just write it right there? Let's kind of come up with, you stamp 3 items, and what I noticed was stamping those 3 items, you kind of gave her the action steps, and instead of letting her, like prompting her to bring out those action steps. Even though we were talking about, she came up with like the more guided visual opportunities because we talked a lot about the imagery throughout the session. But what could you have done maybe to get her to, what prompts could you have added to maybe get her to come up
to name
the stamp? Name the actions.
I know one I gave was the last 2 I gave her was offer more real world connections. But maybe I could have asked her,
let's script it out.
You want to do it? Okay. Yep. So our first one will be a question, right? So
like what prompts could we get her to kind of stamp?
So in order to
the next steps.
So we can say like in order to increase engagement with complex text, because that's what that was.
Yeah, it was.
For all of us too.
Yeah.
With complex text, how can we, so this is a question I would ask her to get her to make.
Mhm.
How can we bring the poems to life?
There you go. And so what would you expect her to say within that?
Well, I would expect her to say, offer those real world connections, which
Mhm.
I named for her, but I will hope she can do that. And then bringing in those concrete images.
Okay, so we're going to stamp two things you will do when you coach Miss Cervantes when you watch her teach the lesson. And I know today they were you watched her. When are you going back?
Wednesday at 8 a.m.
Wednesday. Okay, I'm going to come in. So let's stamp two things. So we're going to give her this prompt.
Wednesday at 8:30. Sorry, 8:30.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
That's okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just invite
Invite
me in the calendar.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll come back to that. But how can we bring the poems to life? So what are you going to ask? What are you going to want to see her do with that to bring the poems to life?
Well, I would want her to continue offering that visual opportunity, more guided and visual opportunities, but along with that, bring in real world connections. Offer real world connections, and then bring in a concrete image. And continue making sure her anchor charts are interactive.
All right, so when I come in to see, so I want to come in next week to see your action step, which you're going to offer more guided visual support with the anchor chart.
Yep.
Okay. And then you're going to bring in concrete images using real world connections. It's always a tongue twister. It's fun. Okay, so when I want to, I'd like to come in this week, Wednesday to see your action step. Okay, so Wednesday at what time will we?
8:30 a.m.
8:30. Can you send me a calendar invite?
Yes, ma'am.
To see those. And if when I come in, I'm going to be looking for this. I'm going to see how you coach using your action step that we agreed upon today. And if I see you struggling to incorporate those action steps, I'm going to give you a cue to do to make sure that we bring in that concrete image, and then offering the real world connections, and then guided visual support with the anchor chart. But I want to see you kind of stepping back and watching the teacher do it.
Yes.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today. I appreciate meeting with you, and I really enjoyed watching you coach Miss Cervantes, because I feel like she was really taking the feedback and asking a lot of questions, especially when what does she say? I took my notes here. She asked a question about, like, when is it a good time to connect the text to the prior knowledge? She was talking about that. Can you talk to me a little bit more just about that?
She was curious to see how she could get students to understand what the poem's about when it's complex, the complexity.
That's right.
And that's where it goes into our action step, with bringing a more concrete visual to confirm and also to clarify any confusion. So if students are still not understanding, something else she can do is probably chunk it. So whenever she scaffolds it, reads one part, okay, now y'all read, then she could chunk it, because sometimes those longer poems they're really rigorous, but it could be really hard to digest.
Right.
So I would say the concrete images in that chunking it.
Okay, great. And I loved how you used your TLAC visual memory strategy.
Yes.
Way to go. All right. Okay, well, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday at 8:30.
Okay.
And we'll be stamping those action steps.
And you have a calendar invite.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Have
ma'am.
a great day.
You too.
Okay.